Let's call the meeting to order, and let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Susan, verification of notice.
The meeting was properly noticed.
Okay. This is time for public comment. If you would like to make a comment on an item which is not on our agenda tonight, this would be the opportunity to be able to do that. Oh, come on, I thought you retired.
I didn't retire from nothing. It's just a vicious rumor.
I don't know. I was at Fort Atkinson and they, never mind. Go. Janet, would you like to speak tonight? Okay.
I promise I'll keep it brief. In fact, I don't even have anything prepared.
Okay.
So my name is Janet Evans. I'm a taxpayer for the town of Oakland. I saw that there was not an agenda item for the Fire Commission update. So being the person that I am, I just want to make sure the trustees are aware. Obviously, we know that the town of Oakland has withdrawn from the IGA or given notice. Village of Cambridge also gave notice. And the town of Lake Mills wrote a letter that was accessible to the public, indicating that the town of Lake Mills supports the 2018 IGA and doesn't intend to withdraw from it, but they wanted to have a Fire and EMS Commission as soon as possible to officially approve the contract for the EMS, which makes total sense to me until last week when I listened to the Town of Lake Mills board meeting and they proceeded to lease a building for the Cambridge EMS for a contract to expire December of 2024. With the thought that the EMS is already starting to move in operations, an ambulance that our taxpayers has paid for, and just make you aware that even though they want to follow the 2018 IGA, they appear to be forging forward and continuing to do whatever they choose to do. I guess my question is a couple to the board, and obviously I don't expect answers, but with us withdrawing, what protection do us taxpayers have as far as the amount of money that is still continuing to be spent? Now, I know the town of Lake Mills is paying for the lease of the building, but all of the operational equipment, our ambulance, our personnel, who's paying for all of that? How is that being accounted for? When we get ready to pay our budget, even though there was no increase and you denied the budget, something has to be paid in. Has there been separate accounting set up to police that money to make sure spending doesn't continue to be done out of control? Has the commission set up a meeting yet to start the audit process? Is there an inventory being done for the equipment and all this operational things? So withdrawing, I understand, but there's a lot of work to be done and quickly. And I'm just hoping that the board understands, and I'm sure you all do, that timeliness of a lot of this is very important. And I'm hoping you're forging forward and starting to come up with some type of plan or meetings with other people to get things moving in a positive way.
And a number of the things that you highlighted are the essence of what we've asked for in terms of dispute resolution. And we are also conscious of the fact that there's a 60-day time period there, which doesn't necessarily address the concerns that you have, nor does it address all the concerns that we have. And so a number of those items have been placed before our attorneys, and we're waiting for their response in terms of that. So we are aware of a number of those issues.
There is now an account set up, though, to receive the money from Cambridge and from Oakland. I did get that taken care of.
And what about the receivables? Because the receivables are supposed to work the same way.
Yeah, I'm trying. I've intercepted the mail.
Well, and there are some other issues relative to the way the agreement is written that is not abundantly clear. That so Sheila has to proceed very carefully and slowly.
I understand. Yeah, and you're right. It wasn't clear in the IJ about all of that. So
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, let's move along to approval of minutes. First one up is December 14th, and those were in your packet. Any corrections or changes to those minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to have them approved as printed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's move to the minutes of the December 19th meeting. It's a regular town board meeting. Minutes were just printed and disseminated. Once again, corrections, changes.
I'll move to accept the minutes for the December 19th, 2023 town board meeting.
Okay. Second from anyone?
Second.
Second Sheila. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Last set of minutes are from the special meeting on December 21st. And those are printed and disseminated in your packet. So any corrections? Otherwise, accept a minute,
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2023.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to police report drug task force update. Jerry and I were talking just a little bit. I'm just going to give you a little music to move by. We're talking about, you know, some of the things that we support and that go on in as a part of our budget. And for the last several years, we've participated in the Jefferson County Drug Task Force, provided some funds. I think we even provided an officer 1 or 2 years way back. I think
Could have been,
Dave.
so I've been in charge of the task force for the last 4.5 years,
Yeah,
and you've just provided monetary support.
yeah. I think
from that.
maybe 6, 7 years ago. I want to see Sergeant Warner might have been. I think, yeah. So Jerry and I talked about it, and you know, maybe this is something we should update. So Jerry, you can take it from there. And
So this is Dan Herbatin. He's a detective sergeant with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. He is in charge of the drug task force. So like Ted said, he is here to give a presentation on where our funding goes and what you guys are all getting from it. So turn it over to Dan.
All right, thank you. So I'll try and be somewhat brief, although there's kind of a lot to kind of talk about. I think there's a perception that there's not necessarily a problem out here, like there is, and so I kind of want to just talk briefly about the task force, the basic information about the task force, and then kind of cover some of the cases throughout the time that I've been in charge, and kind of give you a little bit of a background and things, so you can kind of understand where things are. So I've covered all areas of the county. It's not just restricted to the cities. And you'll see there's kind of a lot of different things that are happening. So all of the agencies listed here are members of the task force. They all contribute towards the task force. And I should say either monetarily or they supply a person. So Fort Atkinson supplies a full-time detective, so does Watertown, and then the Jefferson County supplies 2 detectives and then me as well. Everyone else supplies monetary funding for us. So our goal is always to target drug dealers. We're not really looking at users. So distribution and sale of drugs transcends, county borders, so to speak. A lot of what we see, because of how we're uniquely situated in Jefferson County, we get Madison people that come out, we get Milwaukee people, we get Rockford people, and they either transplant themselves and then live here because they've worn out their welcome in those bigger cities, or because they can make more money out here. We also have demand reduction efforts, so education and drug education, giving Presentations like this, we've talked to fire and EMS, schools, and things like that. So everybody that's a member has a chief or the sheriff that's part of the steering committee, which then kind of advises on a quarterly basis of what we're doing. And make sure that everything we're doing, that if there's any question, they have the ability to bring it up. And so I lead day-to-day operations. The operational agreement covers the agency responsibilities, my responsibilities, property that is seized, how we dispose of it, and then participating member duties, including a monetary contribution and hour requirement. And so up here you can kind of see, based on our agreement, what the hourly requirement is for each agency. So the town of Oakland, for example, is 250 hours. So if they supplied a person, we would utilize that person for 250 hours, or the equivalent of that is based on our part-time wage. That 250 hours then would be times the $20 an hour. Now that went up. Recently, the Sheriff's Department contract was settled halfway through the year, but at least for this year and probably next, not sure as far as that goes, we'll be maintaining that rate that we had last year, just because of how late in the year the budget settled. And so I can't expect everybody else after the fact. Your budgets are already done, and we understand that. So there's a few things related to this that we're looking at possibly doing. That's a change, and that is, instead of waiting till the end of the year, which makes it difficult, especially on you folks when you see this money then, and you have some unexpected bill, and then you use it, and then you get a bill late in the year, creates a problem, as opposed to potentially billing at the beginning of the year, and then any money that is left that's not used then would be refunded. So that's something we're considering or looking at, and we can definitely talk about that. I've talked about that with the chiefs at their meetings as well, at steering committee meetings, about the possibility of doing that. So any questions on that? Okay. So how we generate cases. We receive a lot of tips, information. Many times it's someone in their neighborhood. Hey, I've got something going on that doesn't seem right. There's people coming and going all hours of the day. So from that, we take that information, we generate a report, and we go on into our investigation. And one of the things that's important, I think, for us to mention is just in general, we take that, we keep it confidential, so your name doesn't have to be used, and then, we then go forward with that investigation, and we'll do a lot of different things to, follow up on that information. No information is unimportant, I guess I should say. Some people are really concerned because they're like, well, I don't know for sure if something's serious. And what I would say is we'd rather have you give us the information and then we look at it. And if it's something that is valuable, we take it and we can use it. If it's not, then at least you've done something, because you don't know, to quote one of my kids who always says it, you don't know what you don't know, right? So maybe that's the piece of the puzzle that you give us that's needed in order to get further on in this investigation. So there's a lot of different factors that we look at. What drug is it that's being sold? Okay, marijuana is everywhere. Yeah, it's a problem, but if we only focused on marijuana, we wouldn't get to all the other things, right? So there's weapons, children, all of those things are factors that we look at as we go through in our investigations. So some of the other things that we do in our investigations: saturation, drug interdiction operations or patrols. We investigate overdose deaths, overdose survivals. A lot of times people overdose and die without expecting that. They're thinking they're getting cocaine, and then it's cocaine laced with fentanyl, and they end up dying. And so we're involved in overdose investigations. We've had several, one at the trailer park on Highway 12 that we're actively investigating right now in the town. Arresting fugitives, so we were involved. There was many times we're involved, but because we work undercover, so people don't think of us as cops. We don't look like cops. I don't dress like this every day, so and so we can arrest sex assault suspects pretty quick or more efficiently because we can do different tactics and we don't look like cops, and then we can take people into custody. Other criminal investigations, homicide, child porn, property crimes, drug driving. So we do a lot, and we assist with those investigations. Just a little bit about addiction. So there's two centers of your brain that are responsible for addiction. Your frontal lobe and the center of your brain. But the really important thing that, as neuroscience is kind of developed throughout the years, we learned that really your brain is not fully developed until you're 23 to 25 years old. And so that's where part of our focus on prevention for kids is really important, right? Because you develop problems as the development goes on. If kids start getting involved in the heavy use of marijuana, for example, or other drugs, as their brains are fully still forming, can be problematic. One of the things just on this slide I think that's valuable to know is you can see the picture. This is a brain scan with a person with no drug use. You see a lot of activity, the yellow and red. And then you see, as you go over to the right, there's very minimal activity. And so that's 10 days without cocaine. So there's a lot less brain activity. And then 100 days, the brain's finally starting to really repair itself. And so where this comes into play is a lot with treatment. And people really need to be taken away from the drug use and really segregated, so to speak, so that they can't get their drugs, and it's usually that 90 to 100 days. And so when you think to yourself, well, this person was just in jail and they went back out, and why did they go back to drugs? Well, it's because of this factor, right? That if they haven't had that time period to fully detox, their brain still has not fully recovered from what they used. So, and it's a challenge for them. And so consciously, for all of us that are not drug users, presumably, right, that we make rational decisions and it's not a problem. People that are under the influence, if they haven't had that detox time where their brain's able to repair itself, it's obviously problematic. So, and they can't make good decisions that way. So normally, the only other thing, we don't target users, but we will in the case of drug-endangered children. State statute and the law allows us to look at child neglect if parents are using drugs that then they could be dealing drugs with their children involved, and we see that. We've had parents driving their kids to drug deals. That happens. Or we've had parents that used and then the residual drugs that they leave, like the packaging on the ground, kids that are, toddlers, infants that are crawling, what do they do with everything? They put it in their mouth. Well, even the residue on a baggie that contains fentanyl can cause a child to overdose and die. And we've had several situations like that. One case that we did in Watertown last year, they had ended up rushing the kid to the hospital. They did all of these procedures, they, analyzing, doing all of this, and the doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong. And so the doctor's like, well, let's just, in the outside chance, let's give this kid naloxone or Narcan. And the kid responded. And so Narcan or naloxone binds to the opiate receptors in the brain, and that's what the kid recovered. So obviously that child was exposed to an opiate like fentanyl or heroin. So here's just a few pictures. If people don't think we've got drugs in Jefferson County, this was an indoor grow house just north of Hebron. This is at a campground. This is cocaine that was seized. This is crack. We have heroin. This is obviously track marks from heroin, but people also shoot up cocaine, and they also shoot up meth. We see a lot of these fake Percocets. They contain fentanyl. This is methamphetamine from something that, a bust in Fort Atkinson that we had, several ounces. This is just to show you, these are meth pipes. It's called an I love you rose, but really everybody that's a meth user knows of it as a bubble, and they use it to smoke meth. So, and if you see it, you see it right at the gas stations. We see mushrooms, LSD, all of that is still out there. So this is just some of the seizures from 2018 to 2023. We've got several big ones, big seizures that we'll talk about, and they'll be later on in the presentation. But we have a lot of drug activity in Jefferson County, in our area, specifically, again, because of how we're situated between Madison and Milwaukee, Rockford, Chicago. And the perception by our criminals is that there's no cops out here. So it's easy for them to, or easier for them to hide. So, so drug overdose death statistics. In 2022, in Jefferson County, we had 22 deaths. Now that counts deaths here, but there's some that die outside of Jefferson County, but they're Jefferson County residents. 2023 is close. We don't have those numbers yet because it takes time for drug panels to be done on the deceased individuals. And so you'll see that if you were to add up the numbers, they don't all add up because many times it's a mixed drug intoxication that causes their death, the person's death. So 2023 numbers are hovering between 16 and 20 right now. So this is just something to recognize for everybody. You know, the thought about marijuana being harmless, go ahead and look into this study where there's been legalization. This particular study out of San Diego was seeing a lot more psychosis, but this study, emergency departments in Colorado saw a 24% increase in psychosis. So that's like 1 out of every 4 people that are heavy marijuana users are seeing an increase in psychosis. A lot of times we used to think this was only because of methamphetamine.
What is that?
What is psychosis?
Well, like psychotic episodes or increase in schizophrenia. So, so we always, like I said, thought a lot of that was meth withdrawal, but some of it is heavy marijuana use. The other thing we've seen out here too, is that all of the edibles that are being sold, kids are getting into them because they think they're gummy bears, right? And then there's a lot of accidental overdose, so to speak, that's causing kids then to end up going to the hospital because of that. So, all right, we'll get to some of the cases. So this was a Watertown search warrant. This particular guy was an Illinois gang member, kilo level cocaine dealer. So kilo, that's a lot, right? 2.2 pounds. So he was a violent person, and we executed a search warrant at his place in conjunction with his arrest. A kilo of cocaine was recovered in the arrest, and then at his house that we, when we executed the warrant, multiple firearms. So, and pretty dangerous person. This was a Fort Atkinson case. This is one that, you know, we've actually hit this house 3 times because they continually dealt. We're dealing drugs, crack and other drugs. The guy that was a convicted felon ended up having this gun in one of the search warrants, and both received prison sentences. But again, it was like 3 times we were there. So this was Main Street in Jefferson, okay? Right kitty corner from the courthouse. This guy was selling methamphetamine. We got a report that strange odors were coming from the apartment. There was a concern that he was actually making methamphetamine up in the apartment. Turns out that wasn't the case, but search warrants was executed at the house. You can see multiple ounces of methamphetamine, a firearm, and cash. He was a convicted felon, and he decided a few months later to take up residence in the town of Oakland at the trailer park here. And so he'd been staying there. Well, people that he was living with started to get sick of his activity, or more than likely, they saw he had a lot of money and a lot of drugs. So they called him in because they knew he had a warrant. So we go and rearrest him. Well, we take him to jail. He had a little bit of methamphetamine and paraphernalia. And then, of course, one of the parties decides that they're going to go back because there's a lot of stuff that was still there, a safe that had a lot of money. And wouldn't you know, the residents decided to take that. All the money's gone, and used it. And so then we were back there conducting a search warrant where there's drugs and more methamphetamine. So, mentioned the overdose death that's a recent one in the town here that we're looking at the trailer park. This is one of the larger seizures, but this is another case, Cherokee Path in Lake Mills. This was a gang member with ties to Chicago, originally in Madison, and ended up getting information. And then there was a domestic at the place. Following up on that, we did a search warrant on the house, found a rifle, 2.36 pounds of methamphetamine. So 2.36 pounds, that's a lot, right? That's over a kilo. Estimated street value over $133,000. Not only that, then we also found that they were manufacturing or trying to manufacture fentanyl pills. So about 1.5 pounds of a mixture that contained fentanyl, heroin, and a couple other drugs. They had a pill press in the place. And the street value on that was about $144,000. He was a convicted felon. He's sitting in prison now, but that's Lake Mills. So this particular person in Palmyra just got out of jail, and within several months selling drugs. He was on parole, and we had information he was violating his conditions. We did a search at the house. Controlled substances, he was obviously involved in selling. And then, of course, again, convicted felon, in possession of a firearm. So he had a safe. Inside the safe, large amount of marijuana, LSD. And we thought this was heroin. It turned out it was MDMA, or Molly, methylene dioxymethamphetamine. So Grand Street, Lake Mills, another case we're involved in with Dane County. This particular guy, another gang member with Chicago ties. He was suspected of being involved in supplying heroin or fentanyl to someone. Person died. They also bought multiple times, or they're undercover informants. He was selling fentanyl. Lengthy history with weapons violations. I'm on the SWAT team, so I actually planned this search warrant. One of the members of the SWAT team to assist them. And firearms, large amount of drugs, including, again, fentanyl. So this is 243 grams. That's about 8.5 ounces. That's a lot of fentanyl. Ounce of heroin, cocaine, MDMA pills, and a handgun. These particular fellows also were known in Madison. His cohorts were stopped. One of them had a pistol that had a full auto switch, which obviously is illegal. Not a good group of people. So, and they decided to take up residence in Jefferson County. So, this particular case, someone, and thank God the kids that were in this car weren't killed, but January of 2023, this is a Xonia vehicle crash. Guy was actually just coming back from Milwaukee on his way from picking up, and crosses the center line, strikes this other car head on. So very young driver and several younger people in the car. He appears dazed and out of it. He was under the influence. We recognize the name right away because he's a suspect in some of our investigations. And then there's a box located at the crash scene the following day in the debris. And there were 106 bags of cocaine in the box. DNA linked the bags to him, and he also had restricted controlled substances in his blood. So charges on this particular fellow are pending. But thank God he didn't kill those people. So another Fort Atkinson guy. This guy's taken up residence in the town of Oakland, so be happy to know he's hasn't learned and he's bonded out. But this particular fellow has been the subject of our investigations multiple times. And hopefully jail will be in his future pretty soon. But this particular case, when we did a warrant at his place, we had 3 ounces of methamphetamine there. So neighbors were constantly calling because this was a continual thing. He'd get put in jail, and then he'd be given a signature bond to get out, and he was back at it. So another Mud Lake Road in Lake Mills, not far from here, just up a little ways. This particular gentleman sold cocaine to a confidential informant multiple times. This guy also was a gang member, had ties to Chicago, probably in Madison previously to that, convicted felon. Search warrant revealed a significant amount of cocaine, firearm, again, and $25,000 in cash. So you can kind of see this is his safe. He decided to put everything together, kind of making it a little bit easier for us. It's cash, cocaine, and gun were all together with his IDs in the safe. So, but this is just examples. So each one of those is about an ounce. So it was about a pound, a little under a pound of cocaine. There's a scale. There's this cash. So Waterloo case. So again, we're all over the place. This particular guy is a cocaine dealer, selling cocaine, and then we got reports that he's growing marijuana in his backyard. So, and involved in other things. So we do a search warrant at his residence after going through the process, and we see baggies that packaging materials with the corners cut off, indicative of someone who's dealing. It's got mushrooms, cocaine, a digital scale, and then a bunch of marijuana growing in his backyard. So this is one of the bigger cases that we did. There's another one that I can't really talk about a lot because there's still things maybe working or going on with that. But this particular case, we had several street level dealers that led to a search warrant of a place in Watertown. This particular person, then that group, a vehicle was located that was associated with this group. And we found 8.5 kilos of cocaine in the car. So this is an example. So the estimated street value is around $212,000. Each kilo of cocaine goes anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. So that's 2.2 pounds per kilo. So this is just an example. They had a bunch of the packaging materials related to this, just for your information. We believe that in Jefferson County we have several Mexican drug cartels working in the county, so this is one of them. And then lastly, I can't really talk about it, so that went quick. But that last slide, basically one of our more recent operations, separate from the other, we ended up seizing, well, I'll say over 140 kilos of cocaine. So serious weight, like in that particular operation with the DEA and Walworth County Drug Task Force, that is, I mean, that's, I've been told the largest single seizure in the state of Wisconsin. So that's in Jefferson County and Walworth County, that right on the line. So it's significant. And why do you think that is? Again, because people think there's no cops out here and that nobody, they're going to be able to do this with impunity. So, and we're still working on that particular case. So the net value of that, street level value for that, on the low end is $2 million. If it's broken up on the high end, it's about $9 million. So really significant. So I would like to say we put a dent in that a little bit, but we've been told that they've had a lot more, or based on our investigation, there's probably a lot more that got through, right? So those are some of the big investigations that we've done. And really the reason I think it's important for us to talk about it, what we've been doing, is because you guys don't know. A lot of what we do is very confidential because we work, we keep kind of working a lot of the cases. And so if we publicized everything, people would then know, and then people wouldn't work with us. So, and obviously your support is critical. There's a lot of collateral crime that occurs because of a drug problem, right? Lots of burglaries, lots of property crimes, lots of domestics, lots of child abuse, are because of drugs, or, have a nexus with drugs being involved. So support of your local agencies like the town is important to keep things going. One of the challenges for us is that it's hard to get part-timers right now. Law enforcement is very stretched, very thin. We have our part-timers, but they all had full-time jobs, and so of course they're working their full-time jobs because they can't keep enough people. And so for us, we respond 24/7. So if my phone, it's rarely a time that I'm off that I'm not getting a text message from someone or a call from someone about some information. So again, community support is very important. So we train new officers, and we put a lot of time just into getting our officers up to speed, the new task force officers. And the skills that they develop are things that they actually carry them throughout their career. The amount, the value they get working with people, learning kind of a unique set of skills, almost sounds like a movie, but they do. They develop a unique set of skills. And so I just appreciate the time that I could actually tell you a little bit about what we do. It's a challenge sometimes, and getting good officers is critical. So this is the numbers. If you want to take them down, any information or suspicious activity can be provided and confidentially by contacting one of us above. So I appreciate your time and your support. So
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Virginia, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I have a question. There have been attempts on the state, the Wisconsin state legislature to legalize marijuana, and that has failed so far. But now there's a push to legalize medical marijuana. Is this something that you're concerned with? And if so, what can you do to educate the legislators to get them knowledgeable about what's going on the roads and in the houses?
yeah, so good question. So I mean, there's a lot of policy people that can talk about it, especially in the states where it's legal, right? Medical, I mean, I'm all for people that are terminally ill being able to do whatever they need to do to treat themselves, right? The challenge is, number one, OWI is significantly increased, operating under the influence, in states that have legalization. And then that, as I mentioned earlier, that psychosis thing is a big one. So I don't think it's going to be something we can prevent, but it's definitely something that that people really need to take a look at. And there needs to be, at a minimum, we shouldn't be allowing kids to kids to get it, and that's the bigger problem, right? The trickle down to into schools. And I have slides where we've done some cases where we seized 20 pounds of marijuana from people, and where do we think that's going? Most of it's getting into the schools and the kids. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say call your legislators too, and let them know, because they can Google that New York Post article about the increased psychosis from marijuana use, and it's there, it's readily available. So, good question. Thank you.
Dan, thank you very much for your time and for your effort. And Gary, thanks for bringing this to our attention. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, I've got to go to the county board now, so I'm gonna
okay.
pack up, and I hope you don't mind. I don't want to interrupt you, but
Okay. We'll continue with the next item, which is clerk's report. Susan?
Okay. There is going to be no February election in the town of Oakland. The next election for the residents of Oakland is April 2nd, the spring election. We got an email today that the county is starting to work on ballots. They should be in the office sometime the end of February, for those of you who want to vote absentee. We have collected approximately 50% of property taxes so far. We will collect in this office in the town hall for another 2 weeks for the first installment at the very least. Your first installment is due January 31st of 2024. If you mail it in, the postmark has to have that January 31st postmark on it. That way you can avoid penalties and interest if we receive it by the 31st of January. The last thing I'd like to comment on is our workhorse accounting system. We've been talking about that for about 6 months. We've been doing training in 2023, but we really didn't start using it until January 1. We'll talk about it a little bit when we get to disbursements. The detail in the workhorse accounting software is much greater. So I am going to be working with Chair Bratney to work on a report that's going to be a little bit easier to read, a little bit easier for you to know what's going on, and not have 7 pages of reports. The support that we received from the Workhorse organization is superior to anything I've received from QuickBooks. The person that has been assigned to the town of Oakland is a former town treasurer, so she knows exactly what we need to have for settlement checks, for WRS reports, for W-2s. She's very good at what she does, and she's very accessible. And so please be patient with us while we make the transition. We're still putting in some opening balances and transferring some data, but we should be done in the next month or so. And so please be patient with us until we get everything working.
Okay. Any questions for Susan? Let's continue on. Next item is possible action to rezone from A1 to A3 to create a 1 acre residential lot along Erkey Road from parcel 022-0613-1434-000. Bill, you want to just step up to the table and tell the board what it is you want to accomplish? You had a certified survey map in your packet that depicts this. So. Tell them what you want to do with your property. Are you going to have?
Looking at separating 1 acre off of a set of woods that's on the property and gifting it to my son.
And you're going to build a nice, great house, right? Yeah. This is a parcel, just if you aren't familiar, if you didn't look at the certified survey map, this is along Erkey Road, and it starts up basically where the trucking company is, and the lot then continues on down towards Highway 12, and as you get to the curve where the trees are, is the area that you're looking to convert to 1 acre. And Plan Committee looked at this at their meeting and recommends to the board that they would approve and grant this A3 one acre lot for development. So their recommendation is to approve this. Questions? Then we can entertain a motion to approve this.
Make a motion that we approve the rezoning from A1 to A3 to create a 1 acre residential lot along Erkey Road from parcel 022-0613-1434-000.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will sign off on this bill and send it to the county, and they will then notify you when you're needed to appear before them. So, good luck. Thank you. Okay. Francis, you want to come up and talk about what you want to do? The next item on our agenda is discussion, possible action regarding Class B beer and Class B liquor for Warm Belly Farms for the period January 31, 2024 through June 30, 2024. And you've got, right now you're selling hard cider, right, if I remember correctly?
We make our own hard cider, but we're looking to have a liquor license for events, basically.
Okay. So these would be, in addition to your sales, this would be business meetings?
Our hard cider would be the feature part, but there could be other old fashions or whatever, as well.
Okay.
So why is it only through June 30th?
That's the end of the year.
That's when
Oh.
liquor licenses are,
Oh,
they go
okay.
from July 1 to June 30. So no matter when you apply it during the year.
It's only to the 30th
Right.
of June, okay.
And we have a Class B license available.
Okay.
Other questions for Francis?
What types of events?
Sorry.
Which types of events are you doing?
So we have apple picking, strawberry picking, flower picking, planted berries.
Any weddings or?
No, that's not in the plans, but it would mainly be for berry picking, and strawberry picking, apple picking, berry picking, flower picking.
Okay.
And strawberry is available all year round, right, because of the
Not
hydroponics?
quite all year.
A little bit too cold tonight?
We're like June to November now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we could entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the Class B beer and Class B liquor licenses for Warm Belly Farms for January 31st through June 30th, 2024.
Second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Okay, and then we have an application in your packet for a liquor license, for a server license for Francis. And everything is in there. And certificate of completion for the class. So. And staff's reviewed this and you would recommend approval?
Correct.
Okay. So, need a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Moved. And a second, please.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And alcoholic beverage license is approved. Okay. Francis, thank you very much. Okay, discussion and possible action on amendment to contract with ambulance, emergency medical services agreement, and fire protection services with the City of Jefferson Fire Department. That is in your packet. It basically largely affects the areas up along Highway G and Highway 18. 3 of the sides of the intersection at G and 18 are currently covered by Jefferson EMS and Jefferson Fire. And Ron, in a meeting with Joy and I on some issues, asked if we would consider squaring that off, and also thinking about making Highway G, which right now on the east side is covered by Jefferson and on the west side is covered by Cambridge. And there's just a few parcels up there, and that seemed to make sense to us, that it would be easier for dispatch. There would be no issue of the call there. So we said we would consider that. I have sent letters to all of the residents that would be impacted along Highway G in that way, and I've had no contact back from them. I don't know if anybody's here tonight to speak to that. So we've had no negative feedback to that. So we would entertain a motion, or let me ask, are there any questions or comments on this? Virginia?
How many properties does, you know, I kind of get the geographic area, but how many properties does this affect?
There were 4 owners, and it's a total of 7 or 8 parcels, because most of it is ag land, but there are a couple of parcels there's a couple of 1-acre homes up there that are being developed, and actually we're going to see one in our next meeting for take and add another parcel up there. So it's a total of, I believe, 8 parcels and 4 owners own the 8 parcels. So.
And does the price, whatever is in the contract, is that commensurate with the number of property owners?
The amendment is to go, and for fire, we pay Jefferson based on the assessed valuation of those properties. So it would be a matter, we're currently paying Cambridge for that. It'll be a matter of shifting that assessed valuation into Jefferson, and it'll come out of Cambridge. It is a very small, we only contribute 1% of the budget to Jefferson Fire. Ambulance is billed separately, which is billed on a per capita basis, and it's fairly, I think it's 28, 31.
For 24.
And there's, well, right now there's 24, and there's only a few people that live there, so that will be a part of it.
There's less than 100.
Oh. No, it's going to be, we're still going to be less than 40 people all total. And we already have, and everybody should understand, we already have a significant portion of our town which is covered by Jefferson Fire. If you go on the south side of 18 all the way coming in beyond Bigelow and Krekel is all in Jefferson Fire and EMS at this point. So.
Can you remind me why this was brought up? Was this brought up by?
It was brought up by Jefferson Fire wanting to square away issues with dispatch. When you have 3 out of the 4 corners,
Okay.
you know, they don't have to waste any time asking which quadrant is this, which side of the street is it, and virtually, for the most part, Jefferson gets paged out on these almost anyway. Yeah, they are a lot closer on this. So.
So from a consistency standpoint, will it be the fire and EMS that have the same, so it's
Yep.
not like, oh, now it's EMS,
Nope.
so it's gonna be this,
Nope,
now it's
we're
that.
going to make it easy, hopefully, for everybody. So, okay, so we need a motion to approve the amendment.
It includes the speedway as well.
Yes, it includes the Jefferson Speedway. Terry has requested to be added to that. So,
So moved.
moved, second.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, I just, this makes me think that of, before we vote, and I'm for it, but it makes me think though that we should probably, I'd like to see us have a meeting among us to talk about, our situation with Cambridge, to kind of talk through any concerns we might have about how we might move forward.
Right, I don't think that impacts this at this point.
Well, it may not, but it just, I've received a couple of phone calls from people who are concerned that their EMS or fire service will be transferred to Jefferson or Fort. And I've tried to assure them that is probably not going to happen, that they, at this point, that wouldn't be a concern. But I would imagine that there are people out there that would like to see us all have a meeting and discuss.
And I think that's beyond this. I think this is
Right.
a need that has existed, and Ron just finally brought it up, so.
This is something that was talked about before,
Yeah,
Oh,
before that happened.
right. And it-
But most people we know out there are not as informed as we are, and I think,
And that's why we sent letters to these people too also.
Right.
So. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, next item, discussion possible action to award road work for 2024 Park Road project.
And everybody received a,
Okay. Yeah, everybody received a bid results. The bids were opened on the 12th at 1 p.m. And there were 8 bids that were submitted to the engineering company. They reviewed, or 7 bidders on the project. The low bid was at $672,284.86, which was below our estimate. There were other 3 lower bidders were within 20,000 of each other, so this is a good price. So we would recommend that we approve this contract for Payne and Dolan to perform the Park Road work at $672,284.86. Questions?
is that in our packet?
it was an email, it didn't come in the packet because I didn't have it in time, but it should have been on the table.
Oh.
It should have been with the fire department.
Yes. It was on the table separately.
Yeah, I put it on the table. There was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I think I might see it. Okay, that's probably it.
It's got my name on the top. It's a printed email.
Okay.
Did that come in a lot less than we figured?
Yes.
And that's just, is that solely because of the drop in asphalt? It can't just be that, can it?
The only thing that Nathan said was prices on asphalt continued on the recent downward trend. The mobilization cost was lower than expected, and the storm sewer price was lower. So there were 3 factors that went in, and that's why this is much less than what we expected. So
Yeah, almost
this
half,
was-
right?
Pardon me?
Almost half.
Well, I mean, this will make a whole big difference on what we have to borrow.
Yeah.
So this is really good news to do this. That's why, and And they've set dates in June, I think, or even actually before that. So,
They're beginning work in April.
yeah, they're beginning work in
they
April.
said-
Yeah.
When he had the meeting, he said April 15th, finished by July 25th, so is this,
Yeah, so we get this done and stuff, and so this would save us a bunch of money to get this done this way, so.
So the 3 quotes came in, 3?
There were three, the way he wrote that, there were
7
3 low bidders which were within 20,000 of each other. But Payne and Weber, or Payne and Dolan, I'm sorry, was the low bid.
So the specifications were all identical? Do we? I mean,
Yes, yeah, they were issued by the engineering company, the specs were, and they then evaluated everybody's bid response. They find Payne and Dolan is compliant with all their specs. Actually, they, from my quick conversation with Nathan, they had pretty good response of good companies, and everybody paid attention to the specifications.
So there were no exceptions.
No, not that I'm,
Did we get a copy of the specifications? I'm just curious.
we do.
Did we each get a copy of?
No. They're pretty lengthy, and if you would want to look at them, you can come in and look. Jeff has gone through them, so.
Yeah, I mean, not that it's going to keep me from voting on this, but in the future, I'd like to be able to
The
have-
specs are in the clerk's office. They are on bigger than 11 by 17 paper, so
Okay.
they're not easily
Okay, so
photocopied.
It's not a separate written specification like you
No.
architects provide?
No.
Okay, in addition
It's-
to the drawing?
It's in things.
So the difference in the process this time versus when we do a bid, and you open them, you know, the chair opens them in front of everyone so we all can see and hear what they are. What was the difference between that and this?
The engineering firm
Collects the bids themselves and then just...
collected and then they did the evaluation of the bid documents. We are getting all of the bids sent in to us so that we will have them for our file.
Right.
But yeah, we asked them to do the evaluation because of the nature of this particular project. Was bigger than a lot of other things. So we paid them to do the bidding and do the evaluation for us. Okay. Other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the Payne Dolan low bid at $672,284.86.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Jerry. Second?
I'll second it.
Tom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Oh, hmm.
Is Park Road going to be closed that whole time during construction?
Absolutely. No. There are times when it will be closed, when they're doing certain things, but it'll be limited closed. We also have worked with them to schedule such that we will not be doing work around Memorial Day weekend. We will not be doing work around July 4th, where we have, weekends and summer, and then we're going to be very conscious of the closing. We've had that discussion. That came out also at the public hearing, that there was concern for that, and so
From my
they've worked hard on
understanding,
the
they're
schedule.
starting on the ends first, correct? Is what he was talking about when he was here for the presentation, or whoever wanted to come to the Park Road presentation. Working on the ends first, so they get like the beach area done first, and then from Ripley Road to 18 also done first, and then there's
Do
a
the-
lot of
you know,
drainage and that in the
In the
middle
middle.
part, correct?
Yeah.
So are they gonna do both at the same time? Because I need to have access for this.
I don't think they're going to, no, Joe, I think they're going to, I think, God, I hate getting old. I believe they were going to start from the Ripley Road down to get beyond the park entrance. Then come back off from 18 to down to Ripley Road, and then cause those to meet. So,
So as long as we have, if we get
Yep.
anything down on the lake or something.
yeah,
Right.
that's why we're going to be very careful about that, so.
It's always going to be, well, and they told us for residents on Park Road, there would still be garbage pickup as usual, so that, those trucks will be able to get through, and EMS and fire will be able to get through.
So as long as we're under budget on this, maybe we could talk to them about adding a rumble strip in.
Well, we can talk about some of those other
Instead
issues.
of the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Okay, then we have one other part of this project, which is the acquisition of right-of-way on Park Road. If you remember, we had a couple of them on Ripley, where we have to go and pay the person a little bit of money to temporarily use their right-of-way to finish up the project. Last time we had the engineering firm do that for us, and we're asking Jewel Engineering to do that, and they gave us a quotation of $14,200 and something. $14,250 to do all of that work. And it's introduction, offer letters, negotiations, waivers, statement of construction engineering, check to owners, prepare offer price, a whole bunch of work that the engineering company will do to make sure that all the right-of-ways are properly accessed, and we're able to work on them and not encroach on people's property without their permission. So, and that, like I said, they gave us a quote of $14,250, which is something that we anticipated in the project anyway. So
I'll make a motion then to approve the expenditure of $14,250 for Jewel Associates.
for the acquisition services of the right-of-way.
Correct.
Okay. Motion by Jimmy, second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries, okay. Next item up is discussion and possible action on 2024 contribution to Jefferson County Clean Sweep. And you said last year we did,
Last year, we contributed $100.
and that's to
How
their
much did we do?
$100,
$100.
and that's to the annual Clean Sweep for electronics or for everything?
Tires, chemicals,
Okay,
appliances.
okay. They run those out at the county fair, and they've requested that we do that.
Right.
Right, so, seems like a pretty decent thing. You still sometimes pay a fee though for that, right?
You
Yeah.
pay a fee for,
What you're bringing in, or,
sometimes you do for TVs, and if you bring in more tires, you're allotted so many, and if you bring in more tires than you're allotted, then you have to pay for that.
okay.
Is 100 enough?
Well, we're not the only ones that contribute.
What are the others contributing to?
I don't know what other municipalities do. I just know what the town of Oakland has done.
Jimmy, if you want, I mean, I'm sure they'd accept more, but we shouldn't be feeling like
Did
we're
we
wealthy.
budget?
We budgeted $100
Yeah.
because that's what we paid last year.
I'll make a motion, we donate $200.
We'd need a second to that.
I'll second it.
Okay, second Sheila. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, approval disbursements We apparently need a little bit of a primer.
Yeah, I
Primer
was going
here,
to say,
too.
I'm not sure
Please,
that I can actually
Again, please have
ascertain what you're talking about here.
patience with us as we make the transition. So you'll notice we have something that is familiar to you. It is Town of Oakland monthly disbursements. That is the December,
Yeah, thank you.
no, that is,
Yeah.
that is the December 19th through December 31st, when we were using QuickBooks, and it's mainly a payroll. Okay? So that is the QuickBooks. Then the other report is 6 pages from Workhorse, and that is, you have a sheet of what we have deposited in our general fund in the month of January so far, and then we have 82 checks?
84.
Excuse me, 84 checks. That includes payroll. We had several property tax refunds for people who had bank escrow checks in excess of what their property taxes were, our regular monthly bills, and then we also had settlement checks for the school districts, the county, Madison College, Lake Liberty Management District, and Oakland Sanitary District. And those settlement checks came out of the proceeds of what we collected for property taxes.
All right, I guess I'll make 2 motions then.
Okay, that would
Okay.
probably make sense.
I guess the first motion would be to approve disbursements from the QuickBooks, which starts with a service charge for $66.50 through and including electronic funds transfer 01093863 in the aggregate amount of $16,905.40. Then I'd make another motion that we approve disbursements beginning with check number 1 through check number 84 on Workhouse, is that what it's called?
Workhorse.
Workhorse, in the aggregate amount of $3,542,071.19.
Have a motion on the monthly disbursements from QuickBooks. I need a second.
I'll second the QuickBooks motion.
And I need a second on the Workhorse
Oh, second.
detail. Give me a second. Let's vote on the Town of Oakland monthly disbursements from QuickBooks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those from the Workhorse statement of expenditures, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Any announcements, Susan?
Yes,
Anything?
I have a few announcements. First of all, I wanted to announce that the Cambridge Oakland Cable TV has new equipment that is working. Gary is hiring an apprentice that will eventually be taking over his position. So the Cambridge Oakland Cable TV is running smoothly. The next one is from the Wisconsin Towns Association. They are offering Board of Review training at their district meetings. The closest one to Oakland is February 3rd at the 841 Brew House in Whitewater. They are only going to offer Board of Review training at the district meetings this year. At the district meeting in February, they're also going to be talking about the Agricultural Road Improvement Program, which is something that we are considering applying for. And then they're going to give an update on shared revenue. So that's the Wisconsin Towns Association district meeting on February 3rd. If you're interested in attending, I'd be happy to register you for that.
If the third doesn't work, there is one in Juneau that's fairly close, and that's a pretty decent facility up there at their
Well,
county.
There's a virtual training April 1st, according to this.
In my email, it said
Yeah.
that they were only going to be at district meetings.
Yeah,
Because this is the,
I know, the magazine came out and said that, and then they sent, the thing that they sent out today said they're not going to offer it at, so
They're not going to offer virtual.
so I don't,
so what if you
Yeah, I
can't
saw
make
that-
any of the trainings? Only one of us needs to be trained?
There's just one person that needs to
One
go
has
to
to be.
training.
I've already sent mine in to go February 3rd, so.
So it's you.
But I'm old, somebody else should back me up. Younger person.
And,
Not young.
and February,
You're younger than me.
the district meeting in Juneau is on Friday, February 2nd, in case people were
Yeah,
interested.
that's a bad time
Okay.
for me, anyway.
Then there was also a report from the Fort Atkinson Fire Department. They provided information on calls for our community, and that is calls that the Fort Atkinson Fire Department responded to. And then the last thing is that the Jefferson County GIS is updating maps. And I need to know from you if you would like me to order a set of maps for our plat book that we have in the clerk's office.
How much is it?
Black and white copies are $2.50 a page, color copies are $6.25 a page.
How many pages are?
I do not know. It didn't say. You know, it depends upon how many sales things were changed in our town.
What did we officially use them for?
Well, we use them a lot in planning committee.
Okay.
But quite honestly, almost anymore, I and the staff, I think, pretty much use the county's GIS system online. It gives us
It's more up
basically,
to date.
yeah, all the information that we would use. I would say let's not do that right away and see if
We can always order later.
yeah, we can always order one later if we find that we have a lot more need. But I mean, I don't, unless it's really a strange property, I think I've only once come in and looked something recently up on the plat book that's the only way it made sense to me.
Or an easement with trees.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Speaking of the planning committee, are we still short a member?
We're still short a person. We would love to have another person.
Tom, aren't you on?
Yeah, but we lost Tom Spasky, who had been chair, did not re-up on his term this year, and so we're short one person, one appointed member. So
There's a guy in the fire department that offered to help us with anything we needed. Might just throw that at
Okay.
him.
well, it would be nice.
Yeah.
We talked about it at our last meeting, and it would be really nice to find someone with a little bit more of a rural perspective, because that's, although not that much happens, but it would be nice to do that. So,
Could I ask a follow-up?
Hmm.
There's something
sure, only if I know the answer. If I don't know the answer, you can't ask it, Virginia.
When Susan was talking about the Jefferson Fire report, you know, back in the olden days, they always, on the agenda, besides the police report, they had a fire report, they had a commission report, and I'd like to see that back on a monthly.
I have talked with Joe about doing one for us periodically, and yeah, I think we talked about, yeah. So we will be doing that from their perspective also.
And how about a commission report, because that's really important right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have been giving them, but
Yeah,
I was prepared to do one, but
we've kind of held
had-
off because of the current situation a little bit. But it was our intent, we've been trying to get back to doing that kind of informative reports periodically on our meetings, so,
I feel like we should do it every month.
yeah, I think
I do.
that would be the proper thing, so.
I do have, a couple of announcements too, and one of them relates to the fire report. We have this one from Jefferson, but I want to point out that the fire department of Joe published a report that is excellent on their Facebook page. It's probably on your website too, right? So if you want to see something before a meeting, feel free to take the time to look at it. It's one of the best reports I've seen come out since I've been around. It's a much better job than, no disrespect to the past, but it is using technology and graphs and things to put it into a format that we can all easily understand. So if you have a chance, and thank you guys for that effort. That's great. Yep. Yeah. If you want to share it. And I'd also like to thank you guys for the work that you did yesterday for someone who's terminally ill. And I won't get into all the details, but I think 20 people, they said, showed up. And that was a bad situation from my perspective. I don't know how. The person, the man who lives at this property, again, is terminally ill, and his 2 daughters live elsewhere. And they were unable to find help shoveling and removing snow, even paying people. No one was responding. So I reached out last night, yesterday, well, midday yesterday, and they showed up and took care of this situation in the freezing cold. And that snow was hard to shovel, I know, because it was heavy. So just thank you. You guys get enough grief as it is. I just want to make sure that we, give you a pat on the back when you deserve that too. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, no other correspondence at this point. Next regular meeting date is February 20th, 2024, and I would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Whatever.
All those in favor?
Whichever.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Joe, you're for sure you want to be on the agenda next month? Okay.